A chess master, reading his opponent's move. What is he actually doing? He's not looking at the pieces. He's looking at what his opponent wants him to see. He's analyzing not what's visible, but what's being made visible. Kasparov called this reading the board inside the opponent's mind. And here we need to stop and ask, does this ability only work on a chessboard? Freud was doing exactly the same thing in his consulting room. While his patient spoke, Freud wasn't listening to the words. He was listening to the spaces around the words, to what wasn't being said, to where the subject suddenly shifted, to where the voice tightened. Kasparov watched the move where his opponent hesitated. Freud watched the sentence where his patient hesitated. Both knew the same thing. Truth surfaces precisely at the moment. Control is lost. Whatever is repressed, whether a weakness in a chess position or a trauma, whether a weakness in a chess position or a trauma, cannot be permanently concealment changes. Jung fits here exactly. According to Jung, the part of the personality that a person rejects, suppresses, refuses to see doesn't disappear. It grows inside as the shadow. And whenever you lose control, the shadow speaks. A slip of the tongue, a sudden rage, an irrational fear. These are not coincidences. They are leakages of suppressed truth. Kasparov's observed hesitation, the silence Freud heard, the leakage Jung described, all three are manifestations of the same mechanism playing out in different arenas. Truth only becomes visible when control cracks. Now take this mechanism, hold it under a magnifying glass, and apply it to the system. Recall what Weber called the iron cage, bureaucracy, over time, forgets its own purpose and makes rules its purpose. But this isn't merely an organizational problem. It's an epistemological catastrophe. The system generates an internally consistent reality and systematically dismantles the language needed to question that reality. Kafka captured this perfectly in literature. Joseph K. is accused, doesn't know of what, the court won't hear him. And the most disturbing moment is this. Joseph K. gradually begins to feel guilty. Because if a system this powerful and this total has accused him, perhaps he really has done something wrong. The system causes a person to recalibrate their own inner voice according to the system's logic. This is no longer suppression. This is the production of truth. Foucault showed exactly this point. Power doesn't work through prohibition, it works through definition. Who drew the line between normal and abnormal? The hospital drew it, the school drew it, the media drew it. And once that line is drawn, those living inside it feel it as natural law. Slavery presented as the natural order, women's suffrage declared contrary to nature. These weren't naked lies. The science, medicine, and philosophy of the time supported them. Institutions were producing truth in a coordinated manner, and from inside that truth, questioning it seemed impossible. Now return to Nietzsche. Truth is a mobile army of metaphors. Metaphors which man has forgotten are metaphors. Meaning a concept begins as a figurative usage. Over time, its figurative dimension is erased and it becomes real. Market equilibrium, natural selection, social progress. Each represents a metaphor, a perspective, an interpretation. Yet they are now spoken of as though they were objective facts, like gravity. And Nietzsche asked, who produced this metaphor? Who spread it? Whose interests does it serve? Even asking this question is dangerous, because the moment you ask it, you are speaking from outside the system rather than inside it. And the system, by its very definition, marks anyone speaking from outside as marginal, radical, unreliable. This is why Socrates was killed. He disturbed not the foolish, but the clever, those who built the system, those who spoke its language. He showed them this. You cannot define your most foundational concepts, justice, courage, virtue. The ground beneath your language does not exist. This was not an academic objection, it was an existential threat. Because if a system sees the groundlessness of its own language, it collapses. Socrates was eliminated for this reason, not through argument, but through a death sentence. And this is precisely where celebrity culture enters. Celebrity culture does the exact opposite of what Socrates did. Socrates was collapsing the ground by asking questions. Celebrity culture fills the ground, fills it and fills it and fills it and fills it, so fast, so densely, that no space remains for questioning. As Baudrillard put it, there is no longer a real, only copies of the real. Kim Kardashian's daily routine, a politician's family photograph, an influencer's recipe, these flow as content. And this flow is so relentless, it consumes every unit of human energy. No energy remains for questioning. Debord saw this in 1967, in the Society of the Spectacle. People do not live reality. They watch its representation. And representation, in time, overtakes reality. But now I'm arriving at the most critical connection. This entire mechanism, The system producing truth, celebrity culture closing the space for inquiry, institutions defining the normal, operates inside the body of the ordinary person. Weil learned this by living it in the factory. The system takes you through the body. Fatigue shuts down the capacity to think. Repetition renders questioning unnecessary. And once the body is taken, the mind consents to the system. What Arendt saw in Eichmann was exactly this. Evil didn't come from a diabolical intention. It came from the suspension of the act of thinking. Eichmann was not thinking, he was executing procedures. The system was organized in such a way as to make thinking unnecessary, And Eichmann was so completely integrated into that organization that the thought, "I am doing evil," never once crossed his mind. At this point, it becomes necessary to return to Freud and Jung. But this time, not at the individual level, at the collective level. Jung spoke of the individual shadow, the part of the person they reject. But societies have shadows too. A nation's narrative of glorious history is the suppression of the collective shadow. Massacres committed, people exploited, truths covered up. These are sent into the collective unconscious. And Freud's theory of individual repression operates here as well. The suppressed collective shadow doesn't disappear. It produces symptoms. Social explosion, systematic violence, the seemingly inexplicable, spontaneous rage that surfaces without apparent cause. Part of all this is the seepage of, and celebrity culture shakes hands with the system at exactly this point. The system suppresses the collective shadow. Celebrity culture produces the noise required to sustain that suppression. Instead of looking at the shadow, people watch the spectacle. The celebrity scandal, the politician's gossip, the dramatic turn in a reality show. These are not merely distractions drawing attention away from real issues. They are something more sophisticated, false emotional discharges that stand in place of truth. A person becomes outraged over a celebrity scandal, shares it, talks about it, and because this outrage feels real, it seems to satisfy a genuine need for outrage. But it transforms nothing. The system continues. Socrates reappears on the stage here. What Socrates did was this. He refused false satisfaction. He didn't say to the Athenians, "You already know." He said, "What you believe you know is an illusion." This is intolerable. Because when a person gives up the belief that they know, only two paths remain. Either genuinely try to know, or flee from this discomfort. Athens chose the second, in the form of silencing Socrates. Look one last time at Kasparov's chessboard. On the board there is a position, and that position has an objective evaluation. A computer calculates it. This is the mathematical reality. But the game is not played between computers. It is played between human beings. And human beings are simultaneously confronted with the objective reality of the position, their own psychology, their opponent's psychology, and the pressure generated by the system itself, tournament conditions, the audience, the clock. The great chess master is the one who reads all these layers simultaneously. The reality on the board alone is not sufficient. The mind interpreting it, the system shaping that mind, the history producing that system, must all be accounted for. This is precisely what bringing truth to light means. It is not something that can be done with a single method, a single discipline, a single perspective. Without Freud's capacity to read, the slip of the tongue goes unseen. Without Jung's concept of the shadow, collective denial goes uncomprehended. Without Nietzsche's question, the identity of whoever produces truth goes unnoticed. Without Foucault's analysis, the definitional power of institutions goes unrecognized. Without Socrates' courage, none of these questions get asked at all. Without Weil's body, the insufficiency of theory goes unfelt. Without Arendt's observation, the danger of the ordinary goes ununderstood. Without Kafka's language, the helplessness inside the system can. These are not complementary pieces completing one another. They are different angles of vision trained on the same thing. And that thing is this. Truth seeps through everything constructed to conceal it. When control cracks, when language stumbles, when the body refuses to surrender, when the system produces its own contradiction, in that moment, that brief moment, it becomes visible. To catch it, you have to be there. And to be there, you first have to understand how dangerous the search itself is. Socrates knew this, and he asked anyway.